Great. Welcome everybody to our meeting of December 8th of the Community Connectivity Grant Committee. It's being recorded WebEx for the Town of Old Lyme YouTube channel. We have Bonnie Reemsnyder from the committee, Frank Pappalardo from the committee, Jim Lampos from the committee, Kurt Procharena, our design engineer, is here. Almost here. I see his name anyway. And we are expecting Eric Olson at this point. And then we also have First Selectman Tim Griswold here. So at this point, there is no public comment. So I'll move on to project updates. Kurt, can you hear us? Well, Kurt?
It's back on mute.
It shows him as not being on mute.
Yeah.
Kurt? Well,
It could be very short.
Kurt, are you back? There's Eric. Okay, we have a full house today. That's awesome. Thanks, everybody. And I hope that you all had good Thanksgivings. As I started to say, we have no public comments. We're going to go on to project update, and I'm hoping Kurt will join us. Maybe we could begin by where we are with our TRA project. Bonnie, and you had two that were pending. Have you heard from either of those folks? Because we haven't gotten anything from Town Hall.
The only thing that I heard, I passed on to you that I asked you to mail out one to number 12. The other one said they would sign, and a new one had been mailed out. So it's my understanding they both got their copy, but if it's not returned, I can follow up and see if they received them.
Okay, that'd be great. The party that is on Brighton, number 12, I guess, I personally delivered it to them. And the other family, everything did go out, supposed to have been sent out by certified mail. That would be for number 11. It went out certified mail. The other one was for 9 Hartford. And that's the for her Brighton Road address. I delivered that personally.
This is Kurt. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Kurt.
Hi.
Oh, yay. I apologize about that. So at least I have audio working. For some reason, my camera stopped working today, so you can't see my smiling face.
Are you feeling better?
I am feeling much better. Thank you so much for asking. My best advice on that whole thing is don't get COVID.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're working on that ourselves here too. So. Is anybody hearing that extraterrestrial sound that's coming through here?
No.
Just on my computer? No, I see Mary Jo was nodding her head.
Yeah.
And it sounds like The Exorcist or something coming through it.
All right. Let's see if that helps a little bit. I think it's okay. Anyway, so Bonnie, yeah, if you wouldn't mind following up, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Eric, the trustee at 19, another human has materialized on that one. So the trustee's brother will review everything with the trustee. And so tomorrow, I revised a cover letter for Tim to sign, and it will be certified to the brother, mailed certified to the brother. But he and I chatted. He said that he was aware that they're going to lose their front yard, or a lot of their front yard. So we chatted that actually everything will be done, the sidewalk will be done on town property, town right away, and that we're just asking for permission to go on to their driveway to make the improvements, to make a smooth transition from the sidewalk. So I felt that he understood when we got off the phone, and he'll be getting a copy of everything. So hopefully we'll get number 19 done.
How did you track him down, Mary Jo?
It was interesting. I was trying to draft a letter to send them that we're sorry we haven't been able to reach you letter. And when I went to the white pages to try and find the address, his name came up. So I called it and he answered the phone.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of an accident, but so that's where we're at.
All right, perfect.
Tim, do you want to update everybody on ordinances? Oops, sorry.
Tim, you're on mute. Tim, you're on mute.
All right. Let's see. We have the TRA, of course, and so the question of the gravel. I guess when we have the contractor selected, we can determine whether the gravel that exists on the driveway will be adequate to cover what needs to be covered, or whether more material will be brought in. If more material is required, I think we need to have a conversation and say that I looked at B&L gravel over in Old Saybrook. I did not see anything that was very close to their gravel. There was one that was about the same size, but it was sort of a light color and not a variation of colors like their gravel. So we might just say, okay, for a yard or something of gravel, we'll give you a $80 credit or something, and you take care of it wherever you bought your other gravel, which I think was up in Jewett City. And I don't think we want to, volunteer to transport gravel like that. I did receive the image of the, I think you can see it here. It's showing the image of a stick right there as to where the survey marker is in the yard. So I'll find that and then make sure they know where that is. That was his other issue. So I know BSC found it. When I was poking around, I did not find it, but obviously BSC found it. So we should be able to show them where that is for their future reference. I have not seen anything from the attorney, our attorney, Michael Carey, about, I don't think I've seen the new document that would say essentially that if the fence were removed because it was too old and rickety, that they would put it back where it should go. And secondly, kind of a due on sale. If they sell the property, transfer the property, I think that would be the point where we would want the fence to be moved properly on their side of the line. So I think those are that little bit of, and that's probably should go on the land records really, so that it's clear to a subsequent buyer or transferee that that's the deal.
Right. You want me to send a note again to Attorney Carey, or do you want to follow up?
I'll talk to Mike Carey. I believe he was working on a modification. We had that letter which we sent, but he'd probably want to have something a little more lawyer-like to put on the land records, and I think that would be good for all of us. And as soon as the contractor is identified, I think we can also have a conversation with him to get his opinion of whether he can work around that fence. One would think that they're not going to have a great big bulldozer, I don't think. So hopefully they can do some hand digging if they get close to the fence so they don't break it. But we can make sure what the contractor thinks about that when that time comes.
Okay, thank you. I guess the last sticking point, there are 4 that are outstanding. It sounds like 2 are pending that Bonnie was kind of guarding over. Looks like we have the trustee possibly for number 19, moving in the right direction. The last one is number 29. And I know the committee, we spent some time on this in our last meeting. I sent you all the revised TRA suggested by our town attorney. I personally find that the revised TRA, it won't be signed. I think it protects the town very well, and that's good. However, I think if they weren't comfortable with the previous one, they won't be comfortable with this one. So I have not sent it out. I have not called them, but I thought that I would, you have a visitor.
Yes.
I thought that I would see what you all thought about looking at it, if you had the same feelings I did, and go from there.
I read through that quickly a while back, Mary Jo. You'll have to refresh my memory because I don't have it in front of me. If you have it, it would be good if you kind of changes there.
Sure. As you recall, the letter had 3 points. And basically it was, pretty user-friendly, a TRA saying we're going to do this work. We're going to return the conditions to we're going to turn the conditions to best as possible, the way things were before. In the follow-up, it's pretty much a brand new TRA. The first paragraph is very similar, that the town will save owners harmless from claims, but there's been an additional phrase added, except to the extent that any such damage is caused by the owners, which I thought seemed fair. Then they added a part, the attorney added a part that said the owner shall save the town harmless from any claims for damages to person or property resulting from their control, use, and maintenance of the completed work. And that was kind of a sticking point on the previous version. And then the last 4 paragraphs of this are new. And I think the one that might cause some delay is the section, I'm trying to find it. Okay, it's the 4th paragraph. Said in consideration of the mutual promises contained in this TRA, the town and the owners release and hold one another harmless from any claims or causes of actions for damages or equitable relief including claims for personal injury, property damage, and/or breach of contract arising from or associated with the conditions existing on the property now or at any past time, including the condition and slope of the driveway in relation to the road.
I can't see them signing that. They wouldn't sign the first one. I can't see them signing this one. But you know, it is what it is.
I mean, it's a very good document for the town, I think. But I agree with you, Frank. I think that it's unlikely we'll get this version signed if we couldn't get the more user-friendly one signed. My request of the committee is your feedback on our next options. I could go back to the owners and ask if they've had any second thoughts on the version they have. I could send this, maybe thinking that other version looks better for them. And then, as you know, we talked about looking at whether we could provide some additional work on their driveway that may make this more acceptable to the owners. And I know Kurt's joining us and he wasn't on our call last time, but as you know, there'll be a drop off from where the sidewalk ends to their apron. There's already a drop off to begin with. So this would be a bigger drop off such that a car would have a hard time successfully getting into the driveway. Our attorney had some real concerns about that, leaving the driveway in a situation such that it may not be usable for a car. Our engineer had suggested possibly looking at some additional work on the driveway to remediate some of not only that situation, but also some of their groundwater on the driveway. At our last meeting, we had hoped to get kind of a user-friendly TRA that we could try and go out to them first. But also we thought we should get some cost estimates on what else, other things we could do if the committee is so interested in supporting the additional work. No guarantees that they'll be interested in it, that either. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'd really like your guys' feedback, and I'm going to open that up to everybody and Kurt too.
And I just want to reiterate, on this particular property, we are replacing about 10 feet of the existing grass driveway. So that's the extent of the work on to their property. And that would be the plastic grid reinforced turf, same as the other grass driveways. But in this particular instance, we're about 10 feet onto their property, and that's the end of our work.
It would seem to me that right now we're negotiating with ourselves. In other words, we just keep throwing stuff out there and we're not getting any answers back, or they're just saying no. I would just simply say, you know, you've got 2 TRAs, you've got the option of us fixing the problems, and if this isn't acceptable, you come back to us within X number of days with what your demands are, and then we'll look at those. Period. There's not much more we can do. We keep on throwing stuff out and revising. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what the end product is going to be. So go to them. This is it. This is what we got. This is what we're willing to give you. If it's not good enough, you tell us what is, and then we'll talk about that.
Bonnie?
I'm just wondering if Kurt has any empathy towards their concerns. When I use the word empathy, I mean, Kurt, do you think that some of their concerns hold validity and that maybe the town isn't doing enough considering they've had all the drainage problems And how would we resolve that if you do think that they have some valid concerns? Because I think the big question is this a valid concern or is it not? You know, if it's not a valid concern, I agree with Frank. We're negotiating with ourselves with someone who's being unreasonable. But I understand their hesitation and their anger at what they believe the town did to them however many years ago, which again, I don't even know if it was the town's fault or not. But I wonder if there's something we can do that's not outrageously, an overreach that might help resolve it. And Kurt, you might be the one that can answer that.
Yeah, I can certainly chime in on a few things. So I think this is one of those situations where, regardless of the reality, their perception is that there's a problem. So that's our starting point, which makes it a little more difficult to propose solutions. But that's okay. It doesn't mean it's impossible. Similar to what you just said, Bonnie, I'm not sure what work they specifically reference when they talk about the work that was done to the road that they feel exacerbated their water situations, and probably none of us really do. We know that the work that we're going to do, and I felt like we had made some headway when we met with them at their home. We know that the work we're going to do is going to help the situation. It certainly will not make it worse. By adding in the sidewalk, which will pitch toward the street, we're definitely going to address some of the water issues. However, in order to make that happen, we need the permission to work on their property because of what we're going to do to the grades. So I felt that when we met with them and we explained that, they, at least the impression I got was that they did understand how that would help keep the water off their property. And we also talked about, and they seemed to understand, putting the sidewalk in, pitching it the 2% toward the street would therefore require us to adjust their driveway because we'd be essentially lifting up the back of the sidewalk. So currently our plan will absolutely improve the situation out there.
If they allow us to go on their property.
That is correct. So one cannot happen without the other. That's the little bit of a sticking point, right? So the very act of improving the slope at the apron of their driveway to help reduce the water problem will require us to go on their property to complete that work. As what Mary Jo was saying, if we did the work as currently proposed, but did not or were not able to do the work on their property, yes, we will address their water problem because we'll be putting in the sidewalk, we'll be pitching it 2% toward the street, but now we will render their driveway probably impassable to a normal vehicle, which we probably can't do.
Yeah, we can condemn their driveway. I mean, I don't understand. We're going around in circles here, but we don't know what the target is. They said they want their water problem fixed. We're going to fix their water problems, but to do that, we need to get on their property. But they won't let us on our property, so we can't fix their water problems. It's a catch-22.
So I propose that, and Kurt, the way you phrased it, I thought was very good. I propose that we send a letter that basically says, we have tried to help you understand that in order to address the problems to the best of our ability, this is what we need to do. And we understand that we can't force you into allowing us on your property, but if we're not allowed to go on the property, you know, we can't resolve the problems. I think you just give them, you know, a final chance. This is what we want to do. This is how it will impact it, the way you just described, Kurt, and say, without your permission, we cannot address what it will do to your driveway, and you will be responsible for that. End of story. And you have until this date to return the TRA to us if you would like us to take care of that part of it.
Kurt, is there a way to deal with the apron, even though it might not make the sidewalk the way we want it, to accommodate the as-is condition, more or less, so you don't worsen the grade? I think the attorney was concerned that if we worsen things, then that puts us in a different light. But if we dipped the sidewalk there somehow and it just made a section right where their apron is, in case someday that decision was reversed, and then we could put it the way we want it. But we say, you either take our deal or we will install the sidewalk, which will make it look different than other aprons, and maybe the people will have to walk down a slope and back up a slope, or whatever we have to do so as not to make the driveway unusable, and just say, this is it, one or the other. And I think the time that they had to challenge whatever they believe was done incorrectly has expired. So I think we just have to be tough here and say, you're holding up the parade and we're going to do this or that. Either you cooperate or we have to put this alternate design together, and that'll be that.
We did look at potential alternatives. One of the problems is we can't have the sidewalk, in simple terms, below the elevation of the road, such that the sidewalk will accumulate water. So in order to depress the sidewalk to maintain the slope into their driveway, we would actually, I think, compromise the safety of that section of the sidewalk because of the way that the road is crowned. So then we'd have a situation where we have water accumulating on the sidewalk, or I should say, probably flowing over the sidewalk into their yard anyway. But then we run the risk of it accumulating on the sidewalk and becoming, in the winter and freezing and those kinds of things. The other thing that I would be concerned about is we would have to depress the sidewalk in elevation such that there'd be no curb reveal. In other words, the sidewalk would end up being flush with the road, which then creates a concern with a lack of separation between the pedestrians and the vehicles. The curb not only helps with stormwater flow, but it also represents a physical barrier to vehicular traffic. I think in order to make something like that work to the point where we'd feel comfortable from a safety standpoint, we would probably end up having to reshape a portion of the roadway itself, which could become so extensive that it eats up a lot more budget than we're probably willing to accept, because it's sort of like the butterfly effect. The moment we change one spot, and I'm talking about if we did work in the road, we may end up being 50 feet on either side of this thing in order to make the grades blend appropriately, because we can't have sharp grade transitions in the street. So it could be a large effort to do that, and a very expensive effort.
With results that would be no better than what we're proposing now.
That is correct.
It would be worse.
Potentially, for sure.
Okay, I want to get everybody. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I'm sorry. I think all you're doing is giving an opening for all the water to flood into their property, which is a good drainage system, but probably not good for them. I think that's what they accuse us of doing in the first place. So,
Agreed.
That's correct,
I
Bonnie.
think we just explained that this is the proposal. We tried to work around them. Engineers have spent a lot of time on this, and here's your choice, A or B.
Well,
That's it.
if we put the thing the way we want to design it and stubbed it off at the back of the apron, would that hold up legally that we're working on our property and we have proof that they would not be reasonable with us and we can't work on their property, therefore we're just stopping the thing at the edge of the back of our right of way, and they can bring in some fill or whatever they want to do, but we're just making it, and we're not doing anything to their property, and they have to figure it out.
Well, and that's obviously a legal question, Tim.
I mean, we got to do something.
Well, I want to get Jim and Eric on this so everyone's had a chance to weigh in. And then I'm going to tell you one other thing the lawyer shared, and that may help resolve this. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I agree with all of the above. I mean, we've made not only a good faith effort in this, but we spent, I think, most of our time dealing with just a couple of properties. And we can't go back and fix history, whether the town was responsible or not for the drainage. The fact is they're in a swale. And, their house is below the grade of the road. And that swale pre-existed Hartford Avenue, I believe. And I don't know whether work on Hartford Avenue made it worse or hasn't made it worse, but we can't go to the past. We have to start with the present. And I think as a committee, we bent over backwards to try and make this work. And I think Kurt put it very nicely, what the scenario is. Here's a solution. If you don't want the solution, that's your right, but your driveway is usable. So then, like Tim said, it'll be on them. I mean, it is solvable. They can go in and regrade their driveway. They have the right to do that. They can do it themselves. They please. They don't want us. We're willing to do it, and we're willing to do it on our dime and to make it work. And if they're not for it, we can't hold the whole thing up and keep going in circles and begging and pleading and having them say no. And 20 years ago you did this, and 40 years ago you did that. Well, what are we supposed to do? So I think that final letter saying, look, this is it. You go with this, and
Jim, you cut out. Go with it. Said final letter, and then you cut out.
I say we just go with a final letter telling what the choice is, and give them one last chance, or else move on. Just do what we do.
Great.
Eric.
Yeah, I concur with all of that. We've given them, we have done I think our due diligence, and I think the plan that they came up with is certainly going to make the situation better than it is now, simply by just raising, the apron up and everything is pitched towards the road. Unless, the 1,000-year storm where the water is going to flow up and over that. I think part of their problem is the surrounding properties, and they are the low spot. Their neighbor's yard draining into their yard, surface water is not the town's fault. So I think we're getting blamed from some stuff that really isn't, ours to be blamed for. So I think we go back with the letter. Here's some revisions that the attorney, presented. And like Frank said, if, they're not amenable to that, they have to give us some other than, we don't like it. Well, then what is your suggestion? And if they don't ever agree to it, if we're allowed to legally, as far as the town's concerned, we stop the sidewalk at the down edge of the property, and their choice was not to let us finish the project. That's on them.
Okay, and from my perspective, I want to just say I think I agree with everybody on the committee. I want to say I liked Kurt's recommendation that perhaps we consider some alternatives on their driveway, maybe going beyond 10 feet. If there would be even some additional of that plastic grid that might be helpful for us to consider. But I like the idea. We ask them to come back with some recommendations and we go from there. So I think it's kind of unanimous that we put together a letter, and if it's okay with you, I'll work on that and send it out for your all's input before it goes out. That's okay? Does everyone nod if that's okay?
That looks good, Vinny. Sounds good.
Okay. I wanted to share this. This came from Attorney Carey. So it's sort of like a part B to this whole conversation. The statute below might be relevant to the driveway with slope and runoff issues that we discussed. I confess that I have seen this statute before. I confess that if I have seen this statute before, I forgot about it until today. The highlighted language troubles me, keeps me from saying to just go ahead and follow the statute if this property owner does not cooperate. I frankly would much prefer getting an agreement to using the statute and working on a private driveway without permission of the owner. Here's the statute, Connecticut's General Statute 13A60A. Whenever a driveway requires repairing, reconstructing, or relocating as a result of any municipal highway relocation, repair, construction, or reconstruction, and there is no taking of private property involved, an official of the municipality where such driveway is located, who is charged with highway construction or maintenance duties, may enter upon such private property for the purpose of repairing, relocating, or reconstructing such driveway. He shall use care that no unnecessary damage shall result in the cost of such repair, relocation, or reconstruction, and of any damage or injury caused to such property shall be paid by the municipality. So in other words, it's kind of get out of jail card free as long as we don't do any additional damage. We could, under the state statute, go on the driveway and repair it so they can use it without the TRA in this scenario. However, as you can see, our lawyer's not really fond of this option, and I'm not familiar yet with who else may have ever used this before.
And a quick question. I'm wondering if that obligates us to do it if our work ends up causing that driveway to be unusable because of that statute. Are we obligated to go on their property regardless of whether we get permission or not in order to fix it? And I would hate for that to be the situation, because then, you know, we're trespassing against their will and we're doing work they don't want, et cetera, et cetera. It's good that we have the option to do it if we want to, but I'm wondering if it obligates us to do it.
I would have the same question, Jim. And I would lean towards thinking that it does obligate us to, I mean, if there's a 6 or 12-inch drop and we don't do anything because we say we can't go on that property, I think that that's going to go against us. I really do. I think, you know, at least leveling it to the furthest, you know, the best we can. The problem is you're dealing with a family that already thinks the town has done them wrong. So anything we do, I fear that they are going to interpret that as now we've done them wrong worse, you know, and so I would be, I agree with the attorney that I'd use that as a last resort, and only as a resort that if it's dangerous or impossible for them to get on the driveway, then do something. I'd video record everything that's done while it's being done, so that when it gets to the point where they threaten going to court, you can show that the minimum amount was done without trying to do harm to them. Because I just think that this is, if not a litigious family, I think one that's threatening litigation, and so you want to be in the strongest position possible. But I agree with you. I think it obligates us to take care of the minimum anyway. But an attorney would have to say for sure.
We've got it now.
And
We have it out if we need to use it, that statute. Send them the letter, the do it, the do or die letter, and see where it goes. I mean, we can't hold up an entire public works project for one, 8-foot driveway, 10-foot driveway. We already spent 45 minutes discussing it on this meeting.
And I think that's why they have the statute, because you run into this. So.
And I also think if we did get litigious, Frank, to your point, our minutes, our recordings show how much we have spent on this because we're taking it very seriously. I mean, I think no one can say we haven't spent a lot of time and effort to try and make this problem go away and alleviate their concerns. And I think we're kind of where we need to be at this point and send that final letter. And as you suggested, see what they come back with. And, we'll reconvene on this when we hear back from them.
Well, my concern is that we have to either include or eliminate this particular work from the bid package that is going to be sent out presumably soon. So do we include this and then pull it back out later, or don't include it and add it later as part of the bid package? I guess it's such a small enough piece of the package, we could always pull it out later and ask for a deduct. Kurt, I don't know. What do you think?
It's probably easier to eliminate it from the project because we do have it's a clean break between the right-of-way line. So it would actually be easy to just eliminate it from the bid. If things worked out, it could just be added in later as a change order.
Okay. At least that way it would get us moving forward to going out to bid. Tim, you're on mute.
And part of the problem, I think, is if you include it, then and they don't give permission, then they're going to, point the finger. You planned on doing it without our permission or something like that. So maybe that is a better. I think we're all trying to do it correctly. That's the key.
We could get Mike Carey to do a really aggressive letter saying we have been working for months trying to get this resolved. We're at the point where either you give us permission to do the 10-foot drive in your yard, or by refer to the statute, or we must resort, we feel we are obliged by state statute to do this work, which you don't want, and we would rather not do it, but we feel we would be obliged to do it. And I think we just don't ask them for more options at this point. I think we say, we reach the end of the rope. Either you do it the way the architect has planned it, or we're likely going to invoke the statute and do it anyway.
We still get things moving.
kind of different either way. I mean, I want to get things moving. So if we invoke the statute, then we need to leave the money in the bid because it's going to get done regardless. So
yeah,
I don't think we need to add, deduct. We just leave it as if we're going to do it. So like Jim said, I think we would be obligated under that statute to do it. So either they're going to give us permission, or like Tim said, worded from the attorney how it legalese that, you're not going to give us permission, but under this state statute, we are obligated and we will do the work. So, as the architect is drawn up.
I'd like to get of the attorney first to see if we are obligated, because if we're not, I just think it just compounds the problem. If we're going on their property without their permission, things could be worse, except if we their property, and we're just they're running around saying that we're just willy-nilly doing whatever we want, regardless of anything they've tried to work with us on. So I think if the attorney says that we're not obligated to do it, we shouldn't, and just let them deal with it, because they don't want us there. They don't have anything to do with it. It can be on them to deal with it. If the attorney says we are obligated, then that can be part of the letter saying, look, it's going to.
Well, Jim, when we spoke to the attorney, he was concerned that if we caused a precipitous drop, that would give them more leverage to push back on us. I don't know. We'll ask the attorney, and I think that's what we have to do, and take his advice.
Yeah, I leave it in his court right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree, and I think that the obligation would be to make it smooth. The obligation wouldn't necessarily be to put the grid stuff to improve their driveway, but we certainly should smooth it between their property and the sidewalk. So I think the obligation is just the minimum of what has to be done.
Right.
Which I think is what our original plan was. It was minimal, as Kurt said, 10 feet. And all the grass driveways are getting that reinforced plastic grid. So to not include that with this property would not make any sense. So I think we have to do as a minimum, I think we have to plan for what we've already planned for, and not any less. Okay, so with your permission, I will update. Let me get this. I will update our attorney Carrie with our request to find out if this is with the statute, if we're truly obligated, and if we're not, the plan is that we won't. And we will send out a letter. We'll ask Attorney Carey to draft the appropriate letter, and I will send it around for review before it goes out. Okay?
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Wanted to update everybody on the Easy Mart, because one of the rate limiting factors we had, as you guys know, is we had an easement requirement at Easy Mart. BSE performed the survey, sent everything over to our attorney earlier in November, and Attorney Carey sent out a revised draft. Tim has got some of the data that needs to go in, addresses, that sort of thing, onto this document. The only outstanding thing was a title search, and Tim had asked that to be accomplished. I think he told me yesterday it was going to get done today. Do you have any updates on that, Tim?
I haven't heard back from Amanda, but it should have been taken care of today, hopefully.
So what's the process? If she's done the title search, what do we look for?
She'd get that back to Mike, and then he'd incorporate it in the document. It's also to look for any encumbrances that might be on the property. I think we already have the meets and bounds from Kurt, but This was just to make sure that there are no mortgages, liens, or other things on the property that would make our life miserable.
Or even other easements that are potentially interfering with our easement.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything goes back to Attorney Carey, and then what? Does he file it with the town, or?
He has to get it signed, I believe.
Well, he'll send it back to us, and it will get it signed.
I would probably be efficient. No sense having paying him to run around and do that. I don't know if it would require a notary, though. We know the partners both work in the business there, so it would be probably good to have it done locally somehow. I don't know if Mike would want to supervise that or whether we could do it. We'll speak with him and get his guidance.
Okay. We need to get this done ASAP so that we get this done before Christmas. Okay. All right. So that's coming along. Any other project updates? Anything
Just
else? Go ahead,
Just
Chris.
from my end, very simple. We're very close to being 100% complete on all the design documents, bid documents. I've been updating the bid documents based on Michael Carey's feedback from our call a while back. Prevailing wage has been included based on our discussion with Connecticut DOT, Craig Babowitz. We've updated it to reference the new Form 818. So the project manual and the plans are very close, very, very close to being bid ready.
So what's the next step, Kurt? What do we do next when they're bid ready? Do we have to approve them? Mary Jo, do we approve them as a committee and then put it out to bid?
Yeah, once we get the final one, I know you guys all saw the draft. Not a lot has changed from the draft. I think Frank was the only one that had any comments on the draft. Do you guys want to see the final then? It's a big thing.
I could send a link because it is a rather large package.
Yeah, certainly.
I think a link is fine. We just
Fine.
need to get it out there, put it out the
Yep.
bid. So
then what would happen is, provided the committee approves the package, the next step is it goes to Connecticut DOT for review. There's some paperwork that I've already completed that Tim has to sign as the municipal representative that goes along with the package. The completed plans, project manual, that paperwork, and our cost estimate, along with the easement, the executed easement for Easy Mart, all goes up to Craig Babowitz at DOT. They review it. They're indicating that they probably need 1 to 2 weeks to review it. Once they come back, they may have questions or comments. We'll get those very quickly addressed. And then they will essentially notify us that they've completed their review and that we're ready to go out to bid. At some point in that process, once we define our exact bid date, I will make the request to Department of Labor for the prevailing wage rates that need to go into the package. And those are time sensitive because they change, but that's fine. We'll sort of fit that in as we think it's appropriate to make sure that we don't miss the window. And then we have was it Seal, Mary Jo?
Yes.
Yep. So basically I will coordinate directly with them. They will host the documents. The notice will go out via your standard process, whether you use a local paper. I suggest similar to the last project we did that it also go onto the DAS website, BizNet. And then as folks want to look at the documents, they'll contact Seal. They will maintain a plan holders list. We'll have a pre-bid meeting, of course, and respond to bid RFIs as they come in, and hope for the best.
I would suggest that rather than saying approval by the committee, that give us a certain number of days, and if there's no comments, then that's an indication of approval. I don't want the committee to hold up moving forward once you have those documents. Would you agree with that, Mary Jo?
Absolutely. Yeah, because, I mean, really, we've had the draft for some time, so.
Right,
You know,
right.
if there's anything that you're concerned about, if you want to just particularly check on those when you get the link, great.
Yeah, the more streamlined we can make this, the better off, I think. I agree.
That sounds good to me.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
So what do you think that timeline should be? Should we establish that right now? So if Kirk, the minute Kirk gets these package ready to go, he submits it, and we have what, 5 days, 4 days,
Yeah.
4 hours,
Short.
10,
Sure.
10 minutes, or what? 10 minutes. I don't really want to.
How about if, depending on when Kirk gives me the link, today is Tuesday, if we can get the link, we'll give it 3 days from when I get the link and send it out to you. And I'll put that on there. 3 business days. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
So I'll move forward rapidly to get the package wrapped up so I can get that out to you, Mary Jo.
Thank you very much. Great. And honestly, Kurt's done a great job. I can't thank him enough. Most of the comments were really they were pretty innocuous. The lawyer did not have an awful lot of questions on things. Some of it was just typographical stuff. So, but the meat and bolts of it were really well done. So thank you, Kurt.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and the other part of this, the next thing is the budget. We've had discussions on the 2 amendments to Kurt's, the BSC agreement. As you guys remember, these offered $15,000 fee to basically manage the construction services during construction, which are the reimbursable expense. We might have called them incidentals in the past. And then there is the flat fee, $15,000 plus any pass-through for mailing, copying, phone, fax, mail stuff. For the municipal services, sort of like, responding to requests from the contractor during construction. And that money is not reimbursable. That is a municipal expense, just as the easement was a municipal cost. I personally feel it would be important to have at least the first amendment signed off when we go in to the DOT, because we're basically saying this is our project. This is everything is put to bed. I would like to see that 15,000, since it's reimbursable, signed off. And I've talked to Tim about it a few times, and we talked about it again last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting. So to me, I would really like to have that amendment signed off, because it is a reimbursable cost and it's a part of the actual construction project.
Kurt, when do you think that should be done? Is there any magic to it?
Certainly for the design services during construction, or actually, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself. The construction inspection, which is part of the grant, it certainly makes it easier to have that in place as we're submitting this to DOT for approval, because it's one less unknown. If we don't have it in place, theoretically, we need to carry a full 10%, and then that's less money that we can devote to the project itself. But because you have an actual cost, if you sign off on that, we're able to use the actual cost in our estimate to DOT. And therefore, the remaining money, we won't need to carry a full 10%. And then we can essentially tell DOT with a straight face, hey, this other money is available for the project itself. So it does make that process a little bit easier.
Is
Okay,
this something we have to sign off on, Mary Jo? Or is this something that Tim has to sign off on?
well, it's a contract to the town, so I would do it. But
Okay.
let's take this a little further. The 15 and the 15 are for the full project, right? Shore Road as well as Hartford Ave.
That's
Correct.
correct.
So if the bids are open and we do not have sufficient money to do all of Shore Road, we will figure out, subtracting stuff from the total, what we can do along Shore Road. So if, for instance, we did 25% of Shore Road instead of 100%, how would that impact these two $15,000 amounts? Because these would be for the entire project, 100%. So what would you guesstimate would be the curtailment of these fees if we did not do the full boat?
Yeah, certainly if the whole of Shore Road wasn't done, it would affect the fee. I do want to caution that it's not a linear relationship. And the reason for that is there's an economy of scale. So as an example, for the project, we will get a series of submittals. So one submittal that we will get is the concrete mix design. We will review the concrete mix design, process that submittal, and get it back to the contractor. That single submittal will represent the entire project, whether it's just Hartford Avenue or whether it's Hartford Avenue and the whole of Shore Road. So we review the submittal, and it almost doesn't matter how much of the work is done. So some of these things are decoupled from the volume of the work. Another example is a site visit. We will make a site visit at periodic times to view the work, see what's going on. Whether we make the site visit and look at Hartford Avenue, or whether we make the site visit and look at Hartford Avenue and 300 feet of Shore Road, we're mobilizing to the site anyway. We're doing a site visit report anyway. Yes, we would not spend as much time at the project, so you would have some savings. But I just want to highlight that because it's not a linear savings. But there certainly would be some savings, right? There's less opportunity for questions to arise and things like that. So it absolutely would be less. Very hard to really define. It's going to depend on how the contractor executes the project, how good the contractor is, how good of a job he does communicating. But without a doubt, if there's less work out in the field, we could expect the numbers to drop slightly. But I just want to highlight it, that I don't want people to think, oh, we'll just cut the number in half if the work, because it's not linear.
Well, Kurt, that's a worst case scenario. That's doing the whole project and putting it in there, like you said, for the DOT. If we end up backing some of it out, that's not going to change anything on the DOT end of approval.
That's correct. Yep.
It certainly sounds reasonable to at least put in to at least sign the agreement for not to exceed X number of dollars, $25,000 or whatever it happens to be, 15,000. Does that sound reasonable, Tim?
Yeah. I just want to be sensitive to the fact that, we're not going to be doing all of Shore Road. So I hope it would not, if the whole thing is $30,000, I hope it wouldn't be 20 or 22,000 just to do Hartford Avenue. So I don't know how unlinear it is.
And it's very, very hard to gauge. There's so many factors, that play into it. If if issues pop up with homeowners or something, and we need to make extra site visits to talk to homeowners or something, clearly that would affect the cost. If things go absolutely swimmingly and there's no surprises, then that's your better case scenario where the number is going to end up being smaller. It's so hard to predict. You need a crystal ball. We've had projects where the contractor's phenomenal, the stars align, things just go so well, and the number ends up being a lot smaller than everybody thought. We've also had projects that have gone the other direction. We get a very difficult contractor. We run into unknowns. We run into problems with adjacent properties, and all of a sudden, where we thought we needed 5 site visits, we end up with 10. It's really hard to predict. You almost just, and that's why we just established these budgets and then their time and materials, because that's what they are. They're budgets, and we hope for the best.
I think it's purely reasonable to understand that there are fixed costs, and there's also a lot of crystal ball unknown presumptions that we can make. So I'm comfortable with with a not to exceed number of 15,000 and 15,000.
Well, Frank, it's not a not to exceed.
Okay, what is it? Maybe I misunderstood then.
Time and material. So you see, for the 15 for within the grant, it's covered by the grant, but and there's going to be contingency and stuff, so we should have there. But when we go to the Board of Finance and ask for extra money, which we will have to do, that would be for the other 15 and for the survey and some other stuff. So if we blow through that, then that creates problems, because if you get an allocation, you'd need a town meeting to get a penny more once you do that. So hopefully it's pretty clear we will not be doing all of Shore Road. So if this is based on doing 100% of Shore Road and Sound View, then there should be room. And then if the rest of the project is handled by a subsequent grant, then that'll be a new deal and more, all that stuff. So the two amounts should be more than adequate, because likely we're not going to be doing 100% of both. But we have to be careful here. So,
Tim, how do you think the best way to handle it would be then? I'm not understanding. Well, help me understand what the best way to handle it would be. I think that I agree that we probably should have it in place before we go to the DOT, but how do you think we should do that?
Well, we talked to the Board of Finance. The 15 that's eligible for the grant, that needs no discussion in front of the Board of Finance, other than, that's the budget for the whole project. Well, they know it's not the whole project, but they know it's, that's a fixed amount of money, which would be, we can just do less of the project and make the money work, right? The extra money that we need, if we ask them for 15, they'd say, well, you're not doing 100% of the project. So if the 30,000 is for 100%, what do you expect? That's why I posed the question. So we can't say with much certainty that if we only did a third of Shore Road, instead of being 30,000, it might be X. So I guess we just sort of say, well, if we had both amounts, the 30,000, we're going to be safe. But I think everybody would be pretty upset if in the end we did, say, half of Shore Road and we blew through the 30 and we didn't need another 10,000 because of other circumstances. There'd be a lot of explaining to do. So it's a little delicate, but we can put the 15 into the grant submittal and let that go, and then we can ask probably in a couple of weeks, we go to the Board of Finance and we want to start nailing down the extra money we need. It looks like the 15 would be the maximum for the construction services. The 1,800's the survey, right, Kurt?
Yep, that's correct.
And then we would want to have a contingency and so forth. The legal is clicking along. So every time we talk about some of our favorite people on Hartford Avenue, you know, that legal bill is increasing. So, but that's what we got to figure out in a couple of weeks. What do we do with the Board of Finance? What do we ask them for? And as you know, when you exceed $20,000, you need a town meeting. Because of COVID, the Board of Selectmen can act in lieu of a town meeting. So if we were to talk to the Board of Finance and they thought it was okay, then we could, as a board, meet and approve money in lieu of the Board of Finance, because we can't really hold a town meeting with the constraints on people coming to town meetings. So anyway, it's a bit convoluted, and you know, I think we can put the 30 into the grant package, and then we've got to decide what we want to do for the rest of it.
Well, I agree. I just think that we probably ought to kind of refine that down. And if you need something from the committee, Tim, you know, we should talk about it so we can move forward on it. But I tend to agree with Kurt that, you know, having dealt with the DOT myself, the more of these unknowns that you could put into the package and make them known to the DOT, the better off you are getting things approved. So I would love to really like to have at least that portion of BFC included into the bid package with the DOT, so that, and that's going to require obviously the funding part of it. So, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So,
well, the DOT will give us the 400,000 after they blessed it. That's
part of the blessing, as I understand, and Kurt, jump in here, is the fact that we've got all our bases covered. And one of those gigantic bases that needs to be covered is obviously, you know, project oversight, which is what you guys would be doing BSC. Am I correct?
Sure. Yep. And again, I like it because it does remove one variable. You know, instead of having to carry just a percentage number for what the cost might be, we would be able to go in knowing literally what the cost would be. And DOT could see that, you know, that they could understand, okay, I see your line item here for construction inspection services fixed at 15, because then they would understand, oh, how come you're only carrying, let's say, 5% contingency? Well, it's because we know a big part of what normally that contingency covers. We have that number today. So I think that would help us.
So Kurt, and I'm confused now. I know there's 15,000 that is covered by the grant and 15,000 the town is going to have to pay for.
Correct.
Does the 15 that the town has to pay for, or whatever that amount becomes, a town responsibility, does that have to be, that doesn't go into the bid package that we send to the state, or does that have to,
No.
does that number have to be included so they see what the town's kicking in?
It does not. That is completely independent as far as DOT is concerned. You're gonna get a check for $400,000. Anything beyond that is your responsibility. And per the grant specifically, design services during construction / construction administration is a cost that is the responsibility of the municipality. So they don't even need to see it.
Right. Yeah. And just so you guys know, I resent those documents to you by email. Just, you have nothing to do.
So those two documents you sent, Mary Jo,
Yep.
we need Tim to sign, obviously both of them at some point, but to move forward with the bid process and the stuff going to the state, the one that is grant eligible, Tim can sign. If I'm
That's
if I'm
what,
understanding correctly, he could sign that today. The town is not on the hook for that because it's grant eligible.
right. That's exactly right, Eric. And I thought it would be beneficial. I mean, I know we've talked about this a lot, but maybe as a committee to vote our agreement to, authorize or advise Tim to sign it. I did bring it up to the Board of Selectmen last night also. So, if we feel that BSC is our vendor of choice, we know that the costs that BSC is going to earn under this are under our major supplier bid policy requirements. I was hoping that we all felt comfortable going with BSC as opposed to going out to bid to another vendor, which, as we talked about last time, would be more costly to us and a delay in project. That we recommend that Tim sign that initial amendment to their contract, and that will go. That'll be done when we go to the DOT, so that the whole construction piece is approved, signed off, put to bed, and then we can deal with the follow-up with whatever manner Tim wants to do with the Board of Finance. As he and I met last week, and one of the things that's come up on this is some of these costs in the previous project under a different first selectman were handled differently. Tim, I don't disagree with Tim's desire to have all our costs identified before we go to the Board of Finance, but they're still being developed. Whereas Bonnie may have put the survey, she may have paid for that out of the selectmen's budget. Tim would like to have all of that under this particular project budget approved by the Board of Finance. Tell me if I'm wrong, Tim, but that's how I think you're going with that, and I don't disagree. But
the survey, we've already signed a survey contract. I don't believe we've gotten a bill for it, but yeah, that one would think that would be part of the project, as opposed to we don't just have lines for survey work just willy-nilly around. It's budgets are made to accommodate known needs and a little extra, but so yeah, could we put some of the legal in the selectmen legal or something? Up to a point, but there's a lot of legal activity going on. So if we can get it done through the budget, fine. If we're going to the Board of Finance, we might well try for it. We do get to that threshold, and that might be an issue. But I think, fully costing this thing out makes sense with the project. The town's going to pay it one way or the other. So you might as well have it all consolidated if you can do it in one approval.
Question, Tim, have you spoken to Andy Russell on this and to kind of get his view on what the best way of putting this package together to expedite it would be?
We met with them in October and briefed them on the scope of what's going on. And of course, until we get the bids, we don't know what the construction cost is going to be of the $400,000. So if we have a pleasant surprise, that we can do more of Shore Road. If we have an unpleasant surprise, we do less of our Shore Road. So that's sort of our expansion tank, if you will.
Well, then it just seems maybe I'm having a hard time understanding. I might just be dense here at this time of day, but if we budget not to exceed number, understanding that not to exceed number, that is the top and the worst case scenario for 100% of the project, including entire Shore Road. If we budget a not to exceed number, then we've covered ourselves and covered ourselves legally and ethically with the town. In that, the number won't go any higher than that, and will most likely be less if the project does not move as far as we had hoped.
When you say not to exceed, what are you speaking? What item?
Well, we have depends on how you're going to place it in the budget. You have $15,000 that the town is responsible for.
But as we know, Kurt can't tap that.
Pardon me?
Kurt can't cap that at 15,000. If he has a lot of difficulty on Hartford Avenue and has more inspections, it could be 16 or 17. I don't know. And so I think we know 400,000 is the maximum of the grant. So we can't have a vendor come and charge us. We got to make it fit everything within the 400, and what doesn't fit within the 400, the town has to take care of. We know already that not grant eligible is 15,000 for inspection and the survey. And so we have, if the contractor comes in with a pretty high number, we have to see how much we can do. I think we obviously can do all of Hartford Avenue, and we should be able to do some of Shore Road, but depending on where it comes in, we'll determine how much. So I think the 400 is a good sum of money. We'll get a lot done, but we just have to be careful, and what can't fit in the grant has to be paid by the town, and that means Board of Finance.
I think we're sort of in agreement, and I think that last 15 that the town is responsible. If you guys look at the document when you have time, it's pretty straightforward what that 15,000 that Kurt has estimated is going to cover. There's not a lot of unknowns in that. It's not like he's dealing with. It's going to lead a meeting. He's going to have coordination meetings with the contractor, and he's going to take the minutes. He's going to track how the project submittals to make sure that the contractor provides us with the appropriate backup, and that he fairly bills the project as it goes along. He's talked to us about that before. He's going to review the testing that the contractor has to do to make sure that it's up to snuff. That's pretty straightforward. He's going to clarify. Probably the biggest one is if there's any construction change directions that happen during the project. But everything else is pretty straightforward. So
right, but
he's got a fee for that of 15 grand, and it assumes, unless the project is delayed, that it's an estimated fee, and the unknowns I think are minor. It's the phone, fax, mail, and stuff.
Right, but that's for 100% of the project. So as we were discussing earlier with Kurt, if we only do 70% of the project or 60% of the project, that is not going to be 60% of that fee. It'll be a higher percentage of the fee. If we get hung up on Hartford Avenue with certain vexing details, maybe we'll spend more on Hartford Avenue than we anticipated. So that the 30,000 for the services, we know what it's for, but how it's allocated and how much might be saved by not doing all of Shore Road is an unknown. So I guess we would plan on having the full 30 available, and we would hope that if we cut it off on Shore Road, say at 30% of that job, we would have money left over in that 30,000 that would not be required for all that work.
Right. I think that's what Frank's saying.
That's what I'm saying. You're saying that we plan for 30,000, so we go to the Board of Finance for the 30,000, understanding 15 comes out of the bid and 15 comes from the town. And we say it's going to be not more than $30,000, and this is how it's allocated: 15 and 15. And oh, by the way, it would probably be something less if we don't utilize do the whole Hartford or Shore Road. That's really all. That's all we can do at this point in time. We don't have a crystal ball, right? So so that we just go to the Board of Finance and say it's 30,000. We need, this is what we want to budget. 15 coming out of the grant, 15 coming out of the town.
Well, we just tell them 15. They don't care about the 15 it's grant eligible.
So we just use $15,000 as a not to exceed number. And Mr. Board of Finance, it could be less. We don't think it's going to be any more, but it could be less.
Regardless of how much we end up doing once we get bids back, there's always an unknown. We could get a bid back that we could do everything, and that 15,000 could be more because of issues that Kurt runs into or the contractor runs into. So I think we're just going, and we, like you said, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't foresee problems, and that's why Kurt gave us a of 15,000 for what's not grant covered. I think we're, I don't think it says in there that I'm going to charge you 15,000 if you do 10% or you do 100%. It's time and material. So we're going to get billed. The town's going to be billed for their time and materials on the job. So I think, yeah, we have a budget. That's what we have to go with at this point to keep this ball moving along here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've kind of talked this to death, but I just hope that Tim, I guess I'd like a motion from the committee to move the first amendment to BSC's agreement so that Tim can consider signing that as we move forward. And BSC knows that that part's done when he is filling out the paperwork for the bid documents.
That would be for the which part of the 30,000?
The grant eligible.
Grant, I have no problem. Yeah, with that, the grant eligible 15,000. For recommending that Tim sign it.
I'll second the motion.
This is professional service. Kurt, what did we call that? I'm sorry.
That was construction. Hold on, I was just looking at that.
I know.
Okay, here it is. Bear with me, it's just opening. Okay, that was called proposal for construction phase services. Yes, proposal for construction phase services.
Okay. So you want to try that again, Frank?
Motion that allowing Tim to sign the agreement for construction phase services with DSC as appropriate by the town.
We could say not to exceed 15.
Not to exceed 15, yeah.
And I think Eric's.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more construction? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Grant eligible stuff, so it's really a no-brainer.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Okay. Appreciate the time spent on that because, as Tim said, it's tricky. Budget. One of the things that Tim had asked me for, Kurt, was like an estimate of the cost per residence on Hartford Avenue that we're expending on the private properties. And do you have that cost?
I can certainly get that. The way that we have our cost estimate sheet structured is we did break out the work on private property. Although we don't have it done by property, I wouldn't be able to give that to you. I could certainly give you the total of the what we'll call the off-site work.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have that number, and then we'd essentially be able to derive an average cost if we needed to, simply by dividing that by the number of properties. So
Okay.
yes, I can have that for you tomorrow.
Okay. That'd be great. All right. Any more budget discussion? Okay, Kurt, I suspect we owe you.
Hold on for a moment. I had a question on the budget, Mary Jo.
Okay.
I think that the total cost of off-site work would be probably appropriate. I don't think we need to get into the minute detail of what each particular house is going to cost us. And I think that might not serve us well either.
I know what you're saying.
So I would, at this point in time, unless we really need to get involved with what each particular property is going to cost us, I would just like to look at it as a total sum of offsite work. That's
Kurt, when I did the memo for the Board of Finance, I had a figure of 52,000, and that the sidewalks themselves were 287. I don't know if that rings a bell with you, but
It does. I mean, off the top of my head, we've made some changes, but I think you're pretty darn close with that number. Yep.
So Tim, for any math you're doing, to divide the offsite by 13, if you wanted an average.
probably general is better. Just
Oh, yeah. I mean, to Frank's point, I agree.
yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I assume we owe BSC some money, so I haven't seen any invoice, so I'm just keeping an eye out for it.
I think our last invoice, I know that there's one being generated. It's been a little while. I think our last invoice, well, I can open up my.
That's okay. We paid you twice, and when I get it, I just like to run it by the committee. So.
Yep. I think there was one, and this may just be our process, and I apologize. I think there's a third one that might have gone out at some point that because they come out of our accounting department, sometimes I don't even see them when they go out. So I will look for that. I think that was in fact, I can call it up right now, and I can email that to you, Mary Jo, for consideration by the committee.
And then there'll probably be one for the survey work. Correct?
Okay, so it is. Yep, and that one I believe is in the works now. So there was dated August 13th in the amount of $8,800. So I can email that to you for approval.
I've got it here. We've got it, and then there was $8,400 before that.
Correct.
6,000.
And that's been paid.
And
Yep,
6,000.
and that one's been paid. Yep.
Yeah.
So the only one outstanding is the one for 8,800.
Really? Still? That's August.
Yep.
Not paid?
Yeah, I'm looking at my accounting system now. It's noted as outstanding.
I'll check on that. Okay. No squeaky wheels there. I'm surprised.
I guess I'm too nice.
Sure. All right.
What do you use that money for, Tim, over there at Town Hall?
Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Any other budget question? If not, we can go on to approval of minutes. Okay. Moving on to approval of minutes of November 24th. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 24th.
Thank you, Eric. How about
I'll
a
second it.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Thank you. Okay. Then I have next minutes, meetings rather. We put out our new schedule for our January, believe it or not. I think we said second Tuesday. I haven't even written it down yet. 4 o'clock, but I'll put those on the agenda or the minutes so everybody has them. If there's anything else,
Is the next meeting scheduled?
yes, it is scheduled. I have to look it up myself at this point. I did put it on the minutes, but it's in January. I think we said the second Tuesday at 4 o'clock of the month.
Do we have to meet this month to do anything?
We did that last meeting, Tim.
Okay.
So we're all set. Everything's gone to the town clerk, and they have put the meetings up on the calendar. I just don't have it right in front of me.
Okay.
We may still have a special meeting or two this month of December in order to get this bid out.
Thank you, Frank. I think we're going to need to. So when we get the link from BSC, when we get perhaps this letter from our attorney that needs to be drafted, I would like to call a meeting so that we can review this. So
Yeah.
it's a special meeting, at least one, I think, in December. And then our next regular meeting would be in January.
It's January 12th is the date on that.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, so yeah, stay tuned for a request to review this stuff and have at least one, maybe two in December to get everything out and go from there. It's getting exciting.
Get it moving.
Okay.
Motion
Anything
to adjourn.
at 5:38, Frank?
Second.
Thanks, Eric. All in favor or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Kurt.
Great to see everybody. I'm sorry about my camera. I'll get it fixed one way or another.
Want to see your smiling face again, Kurt.
Great to see everybody.
All right.
Better.
Glad
Bye.
you're feeling better. Bye now.
Thank you so much. Be well. Bye.
Bye.